Hello friends, I'm delighted to welcome you to this webinar on how to perform powerful analytics using SoftCAAT. We will discuss a case study of bank branch audit, and also I'll cover a few more case studies. This is just a brief introduction of myself. I am CA Abdul Rafiq, Managing Director of Windsor Infotech Limited. I passed my CA in 1985 and the CISA exam in 1995, and I have been specializing in the area of information systems audit and IT audit. And also, since the last 10 years, I've been focusing primarily on developing innovative solutions for CAs and CXOs. This is the vision and mission of a company. In this webinar, what I would like to do is, I would like to just do a quick overview of the concepts of what is data analytics all about, and then we'll get into the practical aspects of how do we do data analytics, and I'm going to use software called as SoftCAAT in this demo. The 4 key learning objectives of this webinar, which I like to complete in about 60 minutes, with about 10 to 15 minutes on the first 3 concepts, where I'm going to cover why use SoftCAAT for analytics, how to use SoftCAAT for analytics, and walk through of key functions analytics. And 4, this is where we spend a considerable amount of time, which is a case study or demo of audit test using SoftCAAT. Why use SoftCAAT for analytics? So they said data analytics is a must-have capability for the audit function and is widely expected to become a big part of its future. Every professional is known by the toolkit he uses. Similarly, for a CA or a CXO, data analytics is a key skill set and also a tool set which they should learn how to use and deploy in this digital environment. What is data analytics all about? It is defined as the science of examining raw data with the purpose of drawing conclusions about that information. Now, there are 2 perspectives. One is the data scientist perspective, and the second is the data analytic perspective. The data scientist perspective is generally taken by the technology guys who go into primary analysis of data by looking at key elements of data and how you can do various types of analysis, and more so in predictive analytics. Whereas in the case of CAs and CXOs, we look at the data more from a business perspective, which is the science of examining raw data with the purpose of drawing conclusions about that information. So we look at the business perspective of the data and look at how we can draw inference from this. I'm going to show you specific examples as we go through the demo. What can we do with data analytics? We can establish the facts. We want to check the facts as to, let's say, how many number of loans have been given, what are the count or some percentage of the loans which are given, any particular criteria we want to establish or confirm the facts. We can use data analytics. We can explore hunches. For example, I have a doubt credit card has been used for personal purposes. So I want to explore what are the payments of credit card which have been done for personal purposes. Based on certain criteria, I can pick up that information. I can also draw inference from that information. For example, let's say I do a inventory analysis. Based on that, I can get an idea about what is the aging of the inventory and which is the inventory which are obsolete based on a pre-specified criteria. I can also obtain insight from that information, and I can also validate foresight. These are the broad things which you can do with data analytics. There is a study by the IASB where they formed a data analytics working group, and it was supposed to explore the growing use of technology with the focus of data analytics. And this is what they found, that data analytics can be used in all areas of audit, right from risk assessment to performing analytical procedures, substantive procedures, and also to perform test of controls. Now let's look at the second learning objective, how to use SoftCAAT for analytics. These are the 7 steps of using data analytics. First, identify the objectives and deliverables. Any assignment you perform, and it includes a data analytics assignment, you should be very clear about what do you want to accomplish and what do you want to deliver. In the case of data analytics also, when you use data analytics, you should be clear about what is the scope and objectives of the audit and what do we want to deliver. Depending on the scope and objective of the audit, we design the audit program and the relevant audit tests. We identify the data and platform. In a manual environment, when we have to audit, we may ask for the records, files, and registers, whereas in the case of a digital environment, we are going to look at what is the type of data, where is the data available, what is the platform in which the data is available. We understand the business processes and the systems. We document the controls, the criteria, and the tests we want to perform. And based on the requirement, we'll apply or use the specific functions, tools, and techniques. And primarily, the objective of using data analytics is to draw inference and insights. And once you've drawn the inference and insights, we prepare the output and the reports. Let's take an example of a financial statement audit. Now, this gives you the 7 financial statement assertions or criteria to be evaluated. We look at the completeness, which means the data is processed completely and correctly. We are doing an audit, but let's say it's a financial audit. We want to ensure the transactions of the year have been completely recorded. We want to look at the accuracy. We want to look at validity of the data, authorization, segregation, duties, compliance, and cutoff. I'm going to use each of these concepts when I apply the test to the sample data, which I'm going to cover in the case study. One important factor we need to remember that controls are embedded inside IT. In the case of digital data, whatever controls we want to test is already available inside IT. Now, to interrogate the data, we should know how to use the right functions. And this is where data analytics could be useful. These are the top 20 data analytics functions which could be used. You find some of these are available in Excel also. You can definitely use Excel, but Excel has its own limitations because it has not been designed from the audit perspective in mind, whereas the data analytics software is primarily designed with the audit perspective in mind. I'm going to cover out of this 20, probably about 12 to 15 examples I'm going to cover and show you a demo of how this could be performed for various types of data. Now let's have a quick walkthrough of the key functions of analytics. Now I'm going to do this using a software called SoftCAAT. This is the overall objective. We say it's an auditor's dream come true because whatever questions you want to ask to the data, you should be able to ask these questions using our data analytics software, and it will help you get the right answers. These are the 7 key benefits of using SoftCAAT. The most important benefit of using data analytics software like SoftCAAT is it helps you to apply your thought to technology, which means you can think of a particular criteria which you want to ask, or a question you want to ask, or an inference you want to draw. You can ask this question using the specific function and you can get the results from the data, regardless of the volume of the data or the size of the data. How does SoftCAAT help in data analytics and especially for CXOs? You can say you have the knowledge, you have the skills. SoftCAAT or data analytics provides you the tools and techniques so that you can provide value addition to all. What is SoftCAAT? This gives you a quick overview. SoftCAAT is an audit software which I started developing in 2001. So if you see here, it has been more than 2 decades. And in 2005, I sold it to Tally. And 2006 to 2008, I took a break. And 2008, once again, we started development. And we also have other versions of data analytics software called ECAT. Most of the features of SoftCAAT, we also added in ECAT. ECAT is an add-in to Excel, whereas SoftCAAT is an independent data analytics software which is installed on any desktop or a PC or a Windows-based system. It has been designed for practicing CS with more than 30 years of experience. It has the look and feel of spreadsheet software, but with the power of the database. The database could be Access. It could also be SQL. Now, this gives you the comparison between the 2 versions of SoftCAAT we have got. We've got SoftCAAT Enterprise, which is data analytics or BI for enterprises. And we got SoftCAAT Pro, which is data analytics software for CAs and their teams. The difference between the 2 is, in the case of SoftCAAT Enterprise, it has more than 230 functions, Whereas in the case of SoftCAAT Pro, we have kept it limited to 120 functions, which are the most widely used functions by CAs and their teams. This gives you a quick overview of what are the type of functions which are available. So if you look at the panels, we have the file and home panel, curate panel, profile panel. The panels are also organized and given names in such a way that they reflect what is done in data analytics step by step. Now this gives you the list of functions which are there in SoftCAAT Enterprise and in SoftCAAT Pro. If you look at comparison based on the features, you have got utilities, you have got data analytics and FI, and you also business intelligence, MIS, and documentation. One of the beauty of a data analytics software is it also automatically documents what work you've done so that you can also repeat, and it's also available as a measure of documentation, and this is done automatically by the software. Now, who are the users of SoftCAAT? This could be the auditors, this could be fraud investigators, or it could be management and CXOs. What are the 7 steps for using SoftCAAT for data analytics? First and most important is you need to get the data ready for data analytics. Like they say, an actor prepares, similarly a data analyst prepares, which means you need to get the data ready for analytics. How do you get the data ready for analytics? First important rule is you never work on the original data. You get a copy of the data and you work on the copy of the data, and you perform analysis only on copy of the data in a separate system rather than a live system. You perform harmonized sheets to get the data and headers in the right format. The data should be in a tabular format for performing any data analytics. You also document the field description and the related business process and the validation rules. This is what is called as building the data dictionary. This is the most critical step in doing data analysis, because this will give you the complete platform for deciding what are the type of tests you can perform. I'm going to show you shortly an example of how you can build a data dictionary, for example, for a bank audit file. Then quite often when you get the data from a client, there could be a lot of fields which are not relevant for your audit, or these are fields which have got only one common data. So in that case, for example, currency, it may be INR because only INR is being used. In that case, you can't do any analysis on that particular currency. Or there could be fields where the data is not available, it's only blanks. So these type of fields which are not relevant for audit, you can delete this field so that the processing by the system when you perform analytics is faster. You review the field formats and change it to the required format if required. Quite often you find there are specific tests you can perform on each type of a data. The data could be date format, or it could be numeric format or character format. When I show you the demo, I'll show you specific examples for each of the data types. If the date type, it's important that all the fields in that particular column should be of the date type only. Quite often there could be some fields which are not in the date format. In that case, you need to go and fix it and rectify that before you do analysis. It's a numeric field. You have to ensure that all the data is in the numeric field. Generally, in the case of data analytics software like SoftCAAT, you import the data from, let's say, a text file or an Excel file. So the type of the properties of the file which are there in Excel will be inherited by the data analytics software. And if required, you can also change it. Now, it's important to remember that ECAT can perform the functions and display the results. Any software can only do that. It can process the data into information, but you need to apply your business knowledge or domain skill to be able to infer insights from that information and provide report to the management. Now, if you look at a comparison of SoftCAAT and other CAT software, this gives you a quick analysis. What can you do with SoftCAAT? This gives you a quick summary. You can transform your audit process by migrating from a single purpose spreadsheet software to a multi-dimensional data analytics software. You can experience the amazing power of the data analytics technology at work using SoftCAAT. You can find answers by interrogating the data. That is the most important or critical purpose of a data analytics software. Okay, this gives you the overview of the panels. These are some of the functions which can be performed. Instead of talking about it, what I'll do is I'll give you a quick demo so that you can get an idea of what these soft functions are all about. Now let's look at the case study or demo of audit test. Before that, I just want to give you a quick overview of the type of functions which are available in SoftCAAT. So let me come to Excel. Now, this is the, now let me come to Excel. Let's see. Yeah, this is what we got. Now, if you see here, this gives you, this file gives you a list of the functions which are available in the SoftCAAT. Now, before that, let me show you the SoftCAAT itself. Now, this is what is SoftCAAT. Now, if you look at the panels, now if you come here, I've got the home panel, then you have the curate, profile, analysis, explore, investigate, trendline, relate, sampling, utilities tool. These are the different types of panels available. Under each of them, you got menus and functions. For example, you got here Stratify. In Stratify, you got 4 types of stratification: numeric, date, character, aging fields. In classified, you got these 4 types of classification you can do. Similarly, you got another function called classification. Then you have analysis. In analysis, you can do outliers, Pareto, ABC, ABCD, and aging analysis. In results, you can do this type of analysis. Like that, you got different types of analysis which you can perform. Now you got curate, you got this type of functions. In profile, now if you see here in profile, I got statistics where you can get top last text. I can do stratify, I can summarize, we can do totals, classification, data, search by. In analysis menu, we have got this type of functions. Like that, we are complete list of functions. This is where the 230 functions are organized. You got the explore, and then you have investigate, your trend line, relate. These are the functions relate. Whenever you got multiple files, you want to relate together to draw inference. You'll use the functions. You'll find the functions in the relate function. You can also perform various types of sampling. This gives you a list of sampling functions which are available. Now let me come back to Excel and give you a quick walkthrough. So this gives you, for example, if you see here, file, audit. Now this gives you a brief description of each of the functions, what you can do. You import the data, what are the type of data you can import. You can use navigate functions, view file in, remove. Okay, these are all the curate functions. Similarly, you can profile. In Stratify, you see, you got numeric, data, character, key field, aging to field, summarize. Like that, you got various functions. For each of the functions, you find these are clearly described, and this document will be available to you. It's available online also. It is also provided to you in a PDF file when you buy the software. Okay, so you find most of the cases, the name of the function is quite self-explanatory, and a brief description is given saying what can you do with that particular function. Now let me now get back and show you how do we get started with analysis. Now what I'll do is, let's say I give you an example of a loan balance file. This is a loan balance file which I received. For example, let's say this is the file. We have these advances. This is a file I received from one of our clients. He wanted us to help in analysis. Now, if you see, first thing you need to understand is what are the fields which are available in this and what are the business rules which applies. For example, here I have the account number, the account description, customer number, customer name. Like that, I've got multiple fields. I should know exactly what is the type of the data which is available and what are the business rules which applies to each of the elements of data. Only then I can perform the analysis. For that, what do? We prepare what is called as a data dictionary. Now, if you look at the data dictionary, what I've done here is all these columns which are available here, the first row, I put it in the form of a column here. If you see here, column name, account number, then I got the field type, whether it's a numeric, data, or a character type. And I also documented what is the business rule. So in this case, for example, let's say account number in the case of bank, it's 11-digit random number. It's unique for each account. Then I also documented here what are the type of tests I can perform. From the point of completeness, I can look at identify duplicates or identify distinct, or I can also apply identify format. These are the type of audit tests I can perform. Then account description gives me a brief description of each type of advance, and this is mandatory, which means for each of the accounts, if you come to this particular field, account description, this gives me what is the type of the category of that particular loan. So what are the rules for this? I have not written here. So this means in this case, what are the type of tests I can perform? I can group them based on each type of advance, and then I can actually pick up, let's say, the top 10 for sampling. I can also get a perspective of what are the different types of advances and what is the percentage of loan which has been granted under each type. And I can also use it to relate. For example, if a customer has been given loan under one category and it has become an NPA, whether the same thing has been classified as NPA in the other categories also. You got the customer number. This is a 11-digit random number, unique for each account, mandatory. There's one customer number can also have multiple accounts. So how do I use this? I can use it to identify the duplicates. There will be duplicates here. No, sorry, there will not be duplicates here. but there could be duplicates in the account number. For example, a customer has been given multiple loans, so he may have multiple loans, which means a customer can be given multiple loans, but each of the account number will be unique. So it means this is what I said. I think the customer number could be duplicate in the sense for each account number, I'll tag it to the customer name. So if I identify duplicates in customer number, I'll be able to identify how many number of loans have been given to each of the customers. I have the customer name. This I just did a sound deck to remove the prefix so that I can perform identify duplicates, because I found in the original data, see in some of the names they have entered this prefix as Miss or Shri and Mr. In some case it is not there. So what we did was we removed all these prefixes so that it becomes easy for us to identify duplicates. So like that, I prepare a data dictionary for each of the columns, and then we can perform the analysis. Okay. So what I'm going to do is we will pick up some example case studies, let's say of procurement or let's say payroll, and then we'll see how we can apply this rule dynamically for each of these fields. So you should be able to walk through with me and understand how do you read that particular file, understand the business rules, and identify which are the tests to perform, and we'll perform the tests. In this case, for example, for this loan balance file, I've done this recording last month. I think you can have a look at it. I'll not go into the details. I'll just give you a quick perspective. You have something called a column properties. In this case, what happens is, so you'll be able to see, okay, for each of the field numbers, what are the number of fields, what are the blank fields, and what are the distinct cells. You've got numeric statistics. This gives me, if you see here, for each of the type of the fields, it gives me how many account numbers are there. Okay, for the account number, how many are there? Okay, what is the number of negative record, positive record, number of distinct records? Like that, I should be able to pick up the information. This itself will give me a quick insight into this is what is called as profiling of the data. Then I have the advanced installment is 0. Like that, I performed analysis on various types. So I'll not get into the details. You can see the recordings of the last month where I've gone into detail with this example and I've shown. Now, my idea primarily was to show you there's something called the data dictionary, and this is where I want to focus on, where I want to show you, based on these two case studies, I want to show you how the business rules are applied for the type of data which is available. Now, let me show you one last case example in this case. If you come to Excel, now based on this business rule, I decide what are the type of audit tests I perform. Okay, for example, for that particular file, I've written in this case, let's say loan advance file, what are the type of tests I can perform? And this I write, what are the specific tests I perform for each type of a field. For example, if you see here, top last X, I can find out, identify specific number of top 10 value items for sampling for each specific group, for example, based on the facility or the class of the loan. Or I can sort the results based on descending limit to get an idea which are the customers who have been given the highest limit and which are the customers which have got the lowest limit. I can also apply this to outstanding to know which are the customers which are the highest outstanding and the lowest outstanding. For example, I can perform the Pareto test to identify which are the top 20% of the customers who have taken 80% of the loans. Okay, so this is how I can actually prepare the audit test to perform. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to perform this audit test. I'm going to pick up some files and we are going to perform this particular test. Okay. Now, before that, let me look at the presentation. Let's close the presentation. This is what I talked about, case study. So to summarize the discussion we had so far, SoftCAAT is a data analytics software which helps you to establish the relationship between the business process rules and the controls. You can apply the information criteria for evaluation and use the specific tools and functions from the software so that you can report. And this is where you can provide value addition. So what happens when you use data analytics? You are able to provide a big picture perspective to your clients. Not only that, when you audit the data, you are able to get a big picture view of the data which is available, which is what is called as profiling of the data. So this completes the presentation. Now I'd like to spend the time on giving you a practical demo, taking some case studies. Now I've got nothing open here. I've got only the SoftCAAT open. Now if you see here, what I'm going to do here is there are various types of functions which are available. I'm going to pick up, let's say, 2 or 3 files and look at how we can analyze this particular data. Now, this particular file which is already open is called as the procurement file. I'm just reopening this. It loads the data. Let's get a broader picture. Now, this is what is called as the procurement file. First thing, I want to understand the file definitions. I just do a double click. Now, this gives me a quick overview of the fields which are available. Now, based on the fields itself, you should be able to know what is the type of analysis you can perform. For example, we have got the PO date. Okay, we have got the which is supposed to be date field. It already says it's a date field. PO number, which is a character field. Actually, it's a alphanumeric field. Okay. Next, we have the vendor code, which is a character field. We have got the vendor number, name, which is a character, material code, material name, and then we have got quantity, which is numeric, unit price numeric, amount numeric. We have the payment terms, which is a character field. We got the user ID and the location. Based on this, now let's look at what are the type of functions I can perform on a PO date. For example, on a PO date, I can stratify based on the date, which means I can group this into, let's say, data pertaining to 30 days or 45 days, 45 to 46 to 90 days, 91 to 180 days, like that. I can group the data so that I can get inference of what is the period and what is the volume of transactions for this particular period. Not only that, I can also get, for example, this procurement, I can do a day-wise analysis, week-wise analysis, month-wise analysis, so that I can compare, let's say, for the GST input credit, I would like to group them together as per the month. I can get this data based on the PO date. Now, if you look at the PO number, it's an alphanumeric. Now, if it's supposed to be a sequential number, I can check whether any gaps, are there any duplicates in the PO number. Now, if you look at the vendor code, I want to ensure that for each of the vendor code and the vendor name, these are unique, which means one vendor code can have only one vendor name. I can identify whether for one particular vendor code, there are multiple vendor names. Similarly, for the material code, so in this case, a character field, I can check for each of the material code whether material name is unique. How to perform that, I'll show you shortly. I have got the quantity. Based on the quantity, what is that I can perform? I can get the count, I can get the sum, I can group them month-wise. I can, let's say, find out the quantity which has been purchased. I can do it based on the material code. I can group them based on the vendor code to check whether the quantity has been purchased, how much of item which has been bought by the vendor. I can also do a Pareto analysis to check in terms of the quantity which is purchased, who are the vendors from whom we bought the maximum quantity. I can also apply it on the material code to check which is the quantity, which is the material code for which you got the maximum quantity. I can also do a ABC analysis of the some quantity of purchases to look at which are the items which have been bought the maximum, let's say in the ratio of 60, 30, and 10. Now let's look at the unit price. Each of the material code is supposed to have a unique unit price, but the unit price may also vary. So let's say based on the quantity and the unit price grouped as per the material code or the material name, I should be able to find out what is the variance for the purchases based on the unit price. I can also do a quadrant analysis. Let's say look at the quantity and the unit price. I can group them into which are the quantity which is highest and where the unit price is also highest, or which are the places where about the quantity is the lowest and the unit price is also lowest. So I can put them into 4 quadrants and do analysis. I can also do a percentage analysis, which means I can do a percentile, which means for every 10% I can get the grouping. I can also do a variance analysis, which means I should be able to perform what is called as a relative size factor. As per each material code, what is the first highest price and what is the ratio of it to the second price, unit price, and find out the variance, in what percentage it varies. I can also perform what is called as a maximum variance factor. All these things I'm going to show you as we go on. I'm just giving a quick perspective. Just by looking at the elements of data, you should know what is the type of analysis you can perform. Now I got the amount. Let's say I want to verify between the quantity and the unit price. I multiply these two and compare with the amount to check whether the amount has been computed correctly. This, you know, I can also do it in Excel also. But if the volume of the data is high, it becomes much more easier to perform analysis using a data analytics software. You got the payment terms. I can group them as per the payment terms to check for all the procurement which has been made, which are the common payment term which has been used. I can also look at user ID. Based on the user ID, I can say what are the number of transactions which have been entered by each of the user. I can also location, based on the location, I can also, what are the procurement which have been made location wise. Okay, this is what I can perform. Now let's actually now get into this data and perform the analysis. Okay, now if you see here, probably I gave you about 10 to 12 types of tests. Let me perform this test one by one. I'm just going to take up based on the each of the fields. Now, before doing all this analysis, I want to do a quick preview of the data. For that, I click on one function, which is the statistics. I click on the statistics. Now you see here, I get a quick perspective of the statistics, which means for each of this, there are in this procurement, there are totally 1,100 rows. It gives me what is the sum for the quantity, similarly for the unit and for the amount. It also gives me that there are some negative records, which means it also gives me there are 3 items which are negative records. And what are these items? Now I want to have a look at these 3 negative items. I just double click. It will open only those items which are negative. I think I clicked on the total. I have to click on this. This should give me the total number of records which are negative. So this is where I can do a quick preview just by one click. I'll be able to get a quick perspective of the data. Now here also, if you look at the quantity, I know the minimum quantity is bought is 10. The maximum quantity bought is 448. Similarly, in terms of unit price, we have bought at a minimum price of 10 and a maximum price of 5124. Similarly, if you look at it, there's a minimum price about at 23.8 and the maximum price at 95,000. Okay, so this is how you can do the quick analysis based on the statistics. Now let's go further. I come back to the original file. Now I got this PO date. I want to perform analysis on the PO date. So what I do is there in profiling. Now let me come back to investigate. If you see here, there are different types of functions available here. Analysis. You got profiling. Okay, and then let me start with profiling. Let me just pick up, let's say, based on the vendor name. I want to group it based on the vendor name. So the most common function which is used is what is called as classify. Now, what is that? When I say classify, what is that I want to do? Based on the vendor code, I want to classify. I want to get the total amount and the quantity. That's all. If you see here, it's very, very simple. I click this and I say OK. Now this should be able to give me for each vendor code, what are the total count of the quantity and the sum. Now if you see here, for each vendor code, I got this result. Not only that, now I want to see which of the count based on the count, which is the highest, which is the lowest. Now I know that C350 is the one which has been bought maximum number of times. Now let's say based on the amount, I want to do the analysis. I just do a single click based on this. I find that in C350 is the one based on the value also, this got the highest. So this is what I did based on the vendor name. Now let's say we do the same analysis. I want to do based on the material name, which means I want to group it based on the material name. So here I'm picking up the material name. Okay, now I have got the amount. Let's pick up only the amount and I say okay. Not only that, I want to, so for each material name, I want to the average, minimum and maximum price. I say okay. Now this should be able to give me for each material name, it will give me the count, it will give me the percentage, the sum of the amount, it will also give me the average amount, minimum amount, etc. Okay, for example, if you look at this particular amount, this particular writing pad, this will be bought 97 times. Now, same thing, I can do a dynamic analysis. I want to sort this based on ascending or descending order. I can get this complete information at one glance. Now, I want to group this. For example, this material code, what I bought, I want it based on the vendor wise. Okay, so I can do this very simple. So what I do here is, I use the same function classify. What I want to know is, I want the material code and I want to know this material code or material name, and I want to group it based on the vendor wise. It means I want to know vendor wise, I want the details. Okay, what is the total? Let's say I want based on the amount and the quantity, and I say okay. Now this will give me for each of the material name, which are the vendors whom we bought, and it also gives me the count and the sum. Now if you see here, These are the writing pads, and these are the vendors from whom you bought. It also gives me the now if you see here, for each of the material name, I also get the vendor. For example, I want to group it based on the vendor. I just do a single sort. Now you see, as per each of the vendor name, I am able to get what are the items you bought from each of the vendor name. Now this is what I said, we can do dynamic analysis based on this particular data what I got. Now regardless of the vendor, I want to know based on the sum, from whom did you buy, which material item did you buy the highest. You find we got the keyboard converter. Now this is the total value we got, 1,04,771. This is how we can do a dynamic analysis. Now let's look at some other fields. Now let's say this particular amount what I've got, I would like to group them into strata and get to know what is the value. Based on the value, I want to group them. So this is where I use a function called Stratify. So Stratify I can do based on the quantity. Now let me do based on the quantity. It gives me the minimum is 10, the maximum is 448, and the increment is 45. I'll just retain the fields as it is and say fill, and I have to just say OK. Now this will tell me during the year, based on the quantity, what are the items which are bought between 10 to 54. Okay, what are the items which are bought between 55 to 99? So it means based on the quantity wise analysis, I can get a perspective of what is the percentage, which is the item which are bought the highest percentage. If I just do a single click, I'll be able to sort it. I know 55 to 99 is the number, is the one where based on the value and the volume, both have got the highest. Okay, now let's say the same stratification I'd like to do based on the value. So I come to Stratify and I say numeric. So in this case, I want to pick up the amount, and the total also I want to do based on the amount. Now it tells me there is a minus 312 and there is a maximum 95,000. If you see here, these are the values which are available. Now by default, let's say it has given 9,000. Let's say I want to change it to 15,000. Okay, I want to group them into 15,000, category of 15,000 each. This automatically creates the strata. I say okay. Now you see this will be automatically created. Now if you see here, between 312 to 14,687, maximum number of items, 98% of the items come under the category. So 14,688 to 29,6. So this gives me all these exceptions. Now I want to see this item, which is the one which is 89,688. I just double click. I can drill down and go to the particular item, which is the one which in terms of value, which is the highest. Okay, so I can pick up the particular details. Now let's say here I've got this 98%. I would like to further break down into lower quantities. So same thing I can do. What I can do here is I come to same thing, Stratify numeric. Now here I pick up the value, which is the amount. Okay, now it has given this particular item. Let's say I'll retain this as 9,500, or let's say I break this at 7,500. Okay, and I say fill. Let's see whether it is able to do. Yeah, it's able to do. I say okay. Now this should break this item based on this particular value between minus 312 to 7187. Now you see here, I'm able to get this particular values like this. Now I want to give it a separate criteria. For example, instead of this, what I would like to do is I'd like to give my own criteria. For example, I say numeric. So here I want to give, I'm picking up the amount. Okay, I've got this criteria. Instead of this, I say autofill. I'm going to give free intervals. Now here I can go and say, okay, what are the items between, let's say 0 to 100. Okay, let's say 101 to let's say 500. 501 to let's say 1000. Okay, let's say 1001 to let's say 3000. So I'm just giving an example like that. I can fill the criteria. I say okay. Now you see, you'll be able to stratify the data based on the criteria I've defined. Okay, now you see upper bound means which is beyond that maximum limit which I given. Lower bound means beyond the lower bound which I given, and also gives me what is the one which is out of range. So I'm able to get this information at one glance, which means I'm able to summarize the data. Let's say I want to get another perspective. What I'd like to do is, based on the value, I want to group them based on each unique value of purchases. So I use a function called Summarise Quick. So based on the unique value, I want to pick up amount. I want to accumulate based on the amount. Okay, that's all. I say okay. This should be able to pick up from the 1100 items. It'll group them based on each unique value and tell me what are the number of items are purchased. So totally, based on each unique value of procurement, there are 206 items. Let's say I want to sort them. Just a single click, it will sort in the ascending or the descending order. And if you see here, 1016, this particular order I have paid 256 times. Okay, 7,800, this order I have paid 41 times. So based on this, I can get to know, okay, what are the volume at which they're ordering, and then you can also decide whether we need to regroup and redecide on the procurement policy. Now here, I can also do a dynamic analysis. For example, here, I want to pick up which are the items that are greater than, let's say, 50,000. So when I give this 50,000, it will be able to pick up which are the items which are greater than 15,000, which means if you see here, there are 15 items which are greater than 50,000. So I can also do a dynamic analysis based on the results which are available. Okay, now just begin. Now just this is what we started. So what I'd like to do now is, let's say we have got this particular data. I looked at the summarize all the things we got. Now let's say I come to the analysis panel. Based on this particular data, I want to perform some more analysis. For example, I want to pick up here between the material vendor code and the vendor name. I want to pick up with the vendor code and the vendor name should be same, which means for each vendor code, the vendor name should be unique. I want to find out which are the cases where the vendor code name is same, but the vendor name is different. Okay, so what do? I use a function called same, different. What is that I'm interested in? Vendor code is same, but the vendor name is, when this is material code, I picked up material code. Sorry, I wanted to pick the vendor code. Yeah, vendor code, and then I can pick up the vendor name. Okay, and that's all. I click OK. Now this should be able to pick up for all the 1100 items. It'll tell me exactly which are the items. Now if you see here, there are totally 200 items where the vendor code and the vendor name are different. For example, here you see vendor code 350. It looks like I've given it for Spark Group. Same code I've used for another name, like that I've got multiple names. Now I want to have a summary. How many times the same material code has been, vendor code has been used by the vendor. Okay, now what I do, same function, I come back to same, different. Now here, what is that I wanted? I wanted based on the vendor code. Now here I pick up the vendor name. I can also do for the material code. I'll come to that. Which is that we wanted? We got the vendor code. I wanted the vendor name. Correct? Now I want the summary. Now if you see the result here, here I get for C350, this particular name Muhammad Usman UPS service has been given 55 times. Same C350 has been used for Spark Group, and this has been used 51 times. Same 366, I've given it for brand designers. Similarly, C366 I've also used for Vasudeva. So this is how we found exceptions, that the same vendor code has been used by multiple vendors. Now we need to analyze and find out why this happened. Let's say we do the same analysis. The concept is very simple. Same analysis. Can I do it for the material code and the material name? I can do it. I say same, different. Now I come to the material code. Now I say I want to find the material name is different, and let me directly go to the summary now. Now if you see here, A365, okay, we got 1, 462, I got 1. These are the places where it's the material code is same, but the material name is different. Okay, now let's say same thing. Can I apply it for the vendor name and the PAN number? Is the PAN number is there? Can I apply it for the vendor code and the PAN number is different? Yes, I can do that. Which means the vendor name is same, but the PAN name is different. Can I get the details, let's say, as per the location? Yes. What do I do for location wise analysis? I just go to classify. Based on that, I can find out the analysis. Okay, now let's say I want to do further analysis. Let's explore a few more things. Now here, if you see, I got explore. These are the various types of functions I can perform. Let's say I want to do a Pareto analysis based on this. Okay, which means based on the value, I want to know based on the vendor name, who are the top vendors from whom you bought. So I come to Pareto analysis. Now here select analysis field. I pick up the let's say the vendor name. Here I pick up the summary, which is the amount. Okay, that's all. So 80-20 is what I want to find. I can give the details of the summary. Let's say I give the summary. Now, if you see these vendors, if you look at the grouping, these constitute 80%. It also gives you for each of the vendor name, what is the percentage of value you bought. Now, if you see here, this gives me the based the 20%. Okay, this is how quickly I can do. Same Pareto analysis, let's say I want to do based on the material code. I click on Pareto. Then here I want to do based on the material code or the material name. Let's pick up the material code. Now here, next thing I want to find is based on the amount I will pick up. Now see 80-20. Can I do it based on the quantity? Yes, I can do based on the quantity also. Now if you see here, I got 201 items here. Now here the balance 20, I got about 261 items. Now here I got the details. I can also do based on the summary. Now let's do the same thing here. Now here, what did I do? I picked up the material code. I picked up the value. Okay. Can I group it? Material code, can I group it based on the vendor? I can also group it based on the vendor name. So it means I can group this as per the vendor name. Now I can get the material code bought as per each of the vendors, and I can get the grouping. What are the total number of items which happened? Okay, this is how I can do a parent analysis. Let's say the same thing I want to do a ABC analysis. I come to the ABC analysis. Here also it's very simple. I pick up based on, let's say, based on the vendor name. Okay, now here I pick up the summary field, which is the amount. I've got already 60, 30, and 10. Okay, I've got the details and summary. Let me pick up the summary. See, now here if you see 60, there are 10 items which are there. Here we got 30. And this based on the summary, which means the total. Here you got ABC, there's a 10%. Okay, this is how I can do the analysis. Can I do so ABCD also? I can do ABCD also. There are also functions for this one, what are the day of the week, etc. Now let's do one more interesting function here. Based on this, what I would like to do is, now I would like to do a variance analysis based on the rate. Okay, based on the each material code which has been bought. I want to see what is the variance analysis. For that, I'm going to perform two functions. Let's say I pick the RSF, which is the relative size factor. Now, if you see here, I'm going to pick up the RSF field, which is the unit price. Sorry, not the unit price. Here I pick up the material code. For each of the material code, I want to pick up the unit price. That's all, simple. Okay. So based on each material code, I want to do a relative size factor, which means I wanted to find out which is the first highest and second highest, and give me a percentage. All this is done in a few seconds. For all 1,100 items, let's say it's 1,100 items or 1,10,000 items, I'll be able to get this summary. Now here, if you see the result here, I got this particular item, D86031. It has been bought at 5,124. The second highest price 151, and you find there is a percentage variance of 3,288 percentage. Now, if you look at the next item, 441, it's been bought 81 times. Now the first highest is 100. Now second time it has been bought for 70. Now here I want to see the details. I can just double click. It will extract and give me all the details of this item number, material code 441. Okay, this is how I can do very powerful analytics in a few clicks. Now, if you see, totally about 81 times. Now here, if I go and click based on the unit price, now you see generally the unit price seems to be 31. I bought at 7 rupees and also 70 rupees. This could be exceptions or there could be some issue. So I can go and find out what is the issue and do further analysis based on this. So this I've done based on the latest size factor. Let's say I want to do analysis based on the first highest and the second highest. For that, I use a function called MVF, maximum variance analysis. Here also it's very simple. I'm going to do based on the material name. Okay, select numeric field, which is the unit price, which means I do a grouping for each material code. In this case, I've selected material name. Each material name, do analysis based on the unit price, given the details, which is the highest maximum price at which I bought, which is the lowest price at which I bought, and give me the variance analysis. Okay, I say okay. Now this should be able to give me, let's see what happened. Okay, let me come back here. So what we want to do was the material variance factor. Yeah, I think there's some mistake we made. I'm going to material name. Okay, here I picked up the unit price. There's a mistake I made last time. I didn't specify what that I wanted. So I wanted the first maximum variance factor. I want it organized based on the descending. I'll say okay. Now I should be able to get the result. Now if you see, based on this particular item, see, you see in the earlier case you got 770. Now you find this dust covers, we bought 7 rupees. The lowest in this case is 31 rupees. Now you see the second item, keyboard, the maximum unit price 555, the lowest you bought is 31, and it also gives me a percentage analysis. Okay, so this is how you can perform what is called as a maximum variance factor. Okay, so we just saw some of the functions here. Let's say come back here to investigate. So in investigate, you got various type of functions. Now I come back to the first function we talked about. I want to investigate. I want to perform some MIS analysis, and I want to perform MIS. Okay, MIS can be performed on date-related fields. Now by default, it picked up the only date which is there, which is the PO date. I want to pick up analysis based on amount. Now let's see what are the things I want to do. I got MIS. I click on MIS. Now I want to find out the sale as per, let's say, month wise. It's already clicked here. I say month wise. This will be able to group and tell me what are the sales which has happened month wise. If you see here, in a few seconds, I've got for each of the months, what are the total sales. Now I want to see on which month the sales is the highest. I just do a single click. I'll be able to pick up on which month the sales is the highest and on which month the sales is the lowest. I want to do the same analysis based on the count. I can also pick up that information. So this we did based on the month. Now let's say I want to check if there are any transactions which had happened on a Sunday. So same function I use called as MIS. So what is that I want to pick? I want to pick the amount. I come to MIS. I want to do based on, let's say, I've got day. I can also do based on the day. Let's say I give it based on the weekday. So what do I expect to get? I think I made a mistake here. Let's see what happened. I came to MIS. I picked up the PO date. I picked up the PO date. I wanted the amount. Okay, in MIS, I've come here and I wanted to pick this particular data and I wanted to pick up based on not the month. Let's say I want to pick based on the day. This should be able to give me for each of the days. Okay, which means that totally the sales has taken place on 306 days in a year. Okay, based on that, I'm able to get. Now, if you see here, I think let me perform this again. I come to MIS. So I picked up the amount. and I wanted MIS, and I wanted based on the day, and I don't want month. I can also tick all of them. In that case, what will happen is by default, each of the sheets will be created and kept as a child file. So you don't need to do, let's say you want to document all this, you want to perform analysis at one go, you can perform all this at one go. I said, okay. Now this gives me the sales as per each day of the month. Now I want to know on which day of the year the sales is the highest. I just do a single click here. I'll be able to find out based on the sum on which day the sales is highest. Let's look at 7th April, maximum sales has taken place. Using this, I can also find out whether they have done any window dressing on any of the days. Okay, so this is how I can perform various types of functions based on this particular type of data. Now, if you see here, I just picked up each of the fields, and each of the fields I did the analysis. What I'd like to do here is, let me just do one more analysis based on, let's say, the payroll file. Now here, if you see, I have got the payroll file. Maybe I'll take another 5 minutes. Okay, now this is the payroll file. First thing I do is I get an idea of the data. This is where I do the profiling. I got the pay date, the month, serial number, employment number, like that. I got various dates. Okay. Now let me cancel this. Now let me get an idea about the file by clicking on the statistics. I click here statistics. Now this gives me the statistics for the numeric fields. Here itself I can get at a glance, I'll be able to get an idea about the data. Okay, similarly, I come to the date field. It gives me statistics of the date related fields. I can also get statistics based on the character fields. Okay, I can also find out the exception by applying various rules. Now let me come to the file. Now here, let's understand this particular data. What I would like to do is, like I said, the same, different. Let's see whether it can perform similar type of analysis. Now, first thing I do like to do, see if you see the same type of analysis, you can right click and do various types of analysis. Okay. Now let me come back here. So what I would like to do here is, let's say I come to profiling. Now remember we said classify. What I would like to do is I do classify, and I want to classify based on the employee name. Okay, which means I want to have based on the employee name, I want to know what are the actual payment made during the year. I want the count and the value. So you see, there are probably about 20 functions which are commonly used, which could be used in most of the cases. Now, if you see here, in this case, I'm able to get for each of the employees, what are the number of times the salary has been paid. Let me sort it to identify the exceptions. I just do a single click. Now I find the Saurabh Singh and Anuradha Mittal only one time the salary has been paid, and this is the amount. I can directly drill down and check why the salary is paid only for 1 month. Does it mean they were joined in the month of last month, or they joined only for 1 month they left? Or what are the exceptions for this? So I'll be able to get to know for each of them what are the number of times the salary has been paid and what is the total value. Now let's say I want to see who got the maximum salary. Now you find here Swati Jain, the salary has been paid 12 times, and you find 11,39,000. Whereas you find Manoj Kumar, it looks like he has been paid salary 18 times. Now I need to go and find out, because I picked up the employee name. It could be possible they got two names, two employees with the same name. So in that case, let's say instead of the employee name, I'll do the same analysis based on the employee number. So what do I do here? I just classify. See, classify, summarize, this is column statistics, identify duplicate, like that. There are about 20 common functions which are used extensively in most of the data analytics. So there may be 230 functions. It's not necessary you should know all the 230. These are the ones, if you know, based on the Pareto rule, we will be able to perform more than 80% analysis based on this 20 to 25% of functions. Now I got this employee name, number, and I got the employee actual payment. I say okay. Now, if you see it based on this, I should be able to get for each employee number, I'll be able to get the number of times the salary has been paid. Now let's sort this. Now here also I see there is definitely an issue here. This employee 010 has been paid salary 18 times. 1009 he has been 14 times, and we got 1001 which has been paid 13 times. So these are the exceptions. I can definitely double click, extract, and put it in Excel and do further analysis as required. Now let's do some interesting analysis here. What I would like to do here is, now same, different. Now I want to find out where the employee number is same, but the employee name is different. What do? I just go to same, different. Here, what is that I want to find? Employee number. Okay, and I want the employee name. That's all. See, doing analysis is not rocket science. If you know the business rules and you know how to use this function, it becomes very, very simple. No record found, which means all the records are okay. Now let's do one thing. No, I think I made a mistake. I picked up the employee. No, I think I did correctly. Employee number and employee number name. There is no issue in this. Okay, let's do same analysis. I would like to pick up, let's say, based on the employee name or the employee number and based on the PAN number. I should be able to find out the exception. Let's do one more analysis. I want to find out whether the maker checker principle has been followed. So what is that I want to find? In this case, I got the maker and the checker. I want to find out which are the cases where the maker and the checker are same. I say, okay. Now this will go through all these records. What are the number of records which are available in this? And it will be able to give me what are the cases where the same maker and checker are there. Now, if you see here, there are totally 9 records where the maker and checker are same. For example, here, if you see here, in this case, the same employee has entered MK, has entered the data, and is also checked the data. So this is how we found out the exceptions at one go. Now, using the same data, can I do the analysis? For example, I want to find out which are the cases where the net pay commission is not equal to actual payment. What do I do? Same thing, I can say same, different. Where I want to find out where the net pay commission is same, where the payment, actual payment is different. Okay, simple concept. So it means the pay we have to pay is different, where the actual payment is different. So I should be able to pick up, in this case, what are the cases where the net pay commission is not matching with the actual payment. So you see there is one case. What's happened here? If you see here, the net pay commission is 7,068, where the actual payment is 17,068. So this how powerful the data analytics software is. We should be able to extract and pick up all the irregularities which are available in a few clicks. Now, based on the employment date, can I do analysis? Yeah, I can pick up and find out month-wise how many number of employees have been appointed. I can also pick up, okay, based on the salary, we already found out that. Like, I can also find out based on the salary department-wise, I can pick the information. Like that, I can group them based on April, May, like that. I can know month-wise what the salary has been paid. Like that, you can do various types of analysis, and this can also be done in a few clicks. This just, there are, let's say, 230 functions. I've just given you a quick overview about 15 to 20 functions. Okay, so I hope I was able to give you a quick perspective of what data analytics is all about. So if you've got any questions, I'll be glad to take it. Okay, so thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you in the near future. Bye.